It's the Brad and John Show.
Brad and John Show for Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. This is the C Block, the Charlie Block. Okay, previously we were talking about J.C. Corcoran and John. I know John doesn't really care too much about this, but George Weber, I think he's third or fourth generation, or maybe even fifth generation of the Weber family of Chevrolet, and they call him Skip because of the fact that I guess when you're at his house, if you say George, I think he might be the fourth. His father was George III, who I knew his father.
Okay, we get it. Yep, so JC's friends with George Weber. That's awesome.
Well, George Weber is a huge rock and roll fan. I don't know if you know this or not, but on Saturday nights, I believe between 9 and midnight, George Weber, a.k.a. Skip Weber, does a 3-hour rock and roll show. He plays music. Do you know this?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he plays rock and roll music. And the interesting thing about it is George Weber, Skip, is a rock and roll savant. He plays this very obscure music on Saturday night because he essentially buys the time, advertising time, and advertises his Chevy dealerships and his Ford dealership over in Granite City. And he gives the most incredible detail about these artists. I have to be honest with you, it blows me away. From time to time, I will listen to him, and he'll say, well, that was Jimmy and the Pacemakers, and Jimmy was actually, his real name was Arnold Farnsworth, and he was born in 1952, 2 miles south of Potosi. I mean, I'm going like, how does this guy know all this stuff? And he's very, very, very much into the classic rock and roll scene, 60s, 70s, 80s, and that's what the show is. That's what he is sponsoring on the refugee station with Joe and it used to be the J3 crew. Now it's just the J2 crew, which is Joe and
all right,
Jeff.
That's great information. Thanks, Brad.
And he is on, I don't know, like 7 to midnight on the refugee station, and J.C. Corcoran is spinning rock and roll and giving his talking about how he once upon a time got in a fight with Jennifer Aniston. By the way, if you heard this bizarre story, it was on the news at the top of the hour. Have you heard about some dude drove his car into Jennifer Aniston's house? Have you heard this?
No way, really?
Yeah, and they said, a man in his 70s, which means, I'm thinking to myself, young guy, what's he doing driving? 70-year-old, he should be off the road. 80.
I know. Now, guys that are 69 years old, but a kayfabe 89, those guys should be on the road in a derelict vehicle that just barely passed inspection. I pulled this off the lot at Pick and Pull. We know. This was my mom's car. I had to spend 4 years trying to get the license. We know.
My mom's car, which I bought back from a tow lot, and it had a salvage title, and I had to take it to Jefferson City and have it registered. Okay, that's me. That's my life. Okay, and by the way, it's interesting because I don't know if I told you this story or not, but after I got it out of the salvage lot and I took it down to Jefferson City and got the thing titled with the salvage title, Dave Schatz called me up and said, Brad, we're charging an extra $50 for salvage title cars, but you can have your $50 back if your mom signs an agreement that she actually gave you that car. I go, Dave, my mom's dead. Well, but if she were alive, you could get your $50 back. That's the Dave Schatz deal.
You know what happened?
What?
After that, paying that annual fee, thanks to the Northwest Missouri congressman, she started rolling over in her graves. Dun 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 dun. Jokes. Brad, what's next on your list today? I got us off track with J.C. Corcoran.
John will be. He's got a show at 7 to 9 tonight at the Funny Bone. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Oh my God. I put my password into my phone too many times when I'm laughing. iPhone unavailable. Try again in a minute. That's where
Brad, too many requests.
That's where my
I
list
heard it's
is.
because you just downloaded Teams and your phone is like, what is this guy doing in this century?
What did I download?
Teams. Like, because Skype's gone.
Well, aren't we still on Skype? No. What's the deal on that?
I'm not on Skype.
What are you on?
I'm on Teams.
Oh, well,
is this why when I mentioned it to you yesterday before we went on the air, you had no idea what I was talking about?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But I'm still on Skype. So I'm on Skype, you're on Teams. How does that work?
Well, here's why. Because I was using the free version of Skype, and you clearly pay for Skype Business then.
I don't.
Okay, well, or you downloaded Teams, and because you're a geriatric codger, you don't know that you're actually using the Teams platform, and you just signed into Skype, and it kicked you over to Teams.
I'm sitting right here looking at Skype, John. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, then Okay, you don't have to believe me, but Skype Business still works. If you have an old free Skype account. Now, Brad, I think it's probably, maybe it's like one of the 704 domains that you automatically renew every year that you don't use. Maybe you have an auto renew for Skype where you pay for business every year and you just don't know it.
I have no idea, John. You know, once again, I'm a technology guy, but sometimes I even go like, okay, why are we doing this? There's so many things nowadays. I look at this and I think to myself, I don't understand why this has to be so complicated. It's like we talked about this yesterday. Part of the reason we talked about and I know this is, you're going to roll your eyes because I'm talking about cars again because I'm a car guy. Toyota has this car or this truck called the Hilux, and they made a special version of this thing called the Champ, which if it were imported in the United States, it would be a $12,000 or $13,000 car. Because why? It has no electronics in it. It doesn't have an electronic dashboard. It doesn't have a display. It doesn't have all the fancy stuff. It has crank windows. It's a back to basics vehicle, okay? They won't sell it in the United States. They'll sell it in the emerging markets, just like the GEM truck that we talked about with General Motors. And once again, I'm a technology guy, but I say the technology for technology is ridiculous.
I agree. That's why when people do farming, they should just use a horse and a plow. Why do you need a tractor? Brad, in your day, there were still guys down at Columbia Bottoms that used an old ox.
No,
I don't know why we need gas-powered, diesel-powered tractors today.
John,
John Deere makes you buy a tractor that's gas-propelled. John Deere doesn't even sell a plow anymore that's driven by a horse. Ooh, these technology companies.
No. I'll disagree with you there, John. When John Deere made the unelectronic diesel engines, which if they were an EMP and all the electronic devices were blown up, the old John Deere tractors would still run because they don't have any electronics in them.
Wow. Great point, Brad. I stand corrected.
See, because of the fact that what they've done is, this is this whole crazy thing, the right to repair. And John he's going, that's the...
No. I just had a little frog in my throat.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about the YouTube video metrics where we're going to show the drop off. Go ahead, Brad. Tell us more about how John Deere was able to run without power.
John, I'm gonna step back a minute and tell you a funny story, okay? Okay, I'm a single guy. I live by myself. I do my own laundry, okay? So this is actually sort of a funny story. So I did a load of T-shirts last week. I have white T-shirts and I have colored T-shirts. John makes fun of my pink vest, but I have pink T-shirts and I have red T-shirts and safety yellow T-shirts and purple T-shirts and stuff like that. I love my colored T-shirts. So on Friday, I did a load of T-shirts in the wash machine, okay? And on Friday afternoon, I put those in my dryer, okay? So yesterday morning, I go down to take my shirts out of the dryer, and the dryer is still going. It went from Friday afternoon till yesterday morning, nonstop, 24 hours a day. My T-shirts go round and round and round and round and round because guess what happened to my dryer? The timer broke.
Oh, no, yes, Brad. Now, is your dryer in a spot where you would hear it if it was going, or do you have it like down in the basement?
It's down in the basement. It's very quiet.
I see. So it's easy to miss that.
Yeah, it's very quiet, and it just sits there. Now, the interesting thing was I now have the softest T-shirts known to mankind because they were tumbled dry. And when I open up the dryer, apparently the sensor, thank God, because otherwise I owe an electric bill to Ameren UE, and your lobbyist would say, "Oh, Brad, we got Brad back because we nailed him when his dryer got stuck." Right. So
for my Ameren lobbyist friends that are listening, I do not talk about you with Brad Hildebrand. That's complete conjecture. And I try to say on the air that I don't have lobbyist friends at Ameren. Go ahead.
Okay, so apparently my moisture sensor kicked in my dryer because it's got one of those moisture sensors in it where when it's...
Thank God you've never used a moisture sensor in other parts of your life, Brad, or you wouldn't have 4 children.
That's right. So when it got to the point where I assume sometime Friday afternoon when the heater elements went out, because it's an electric dryer, because I don't use gas because I'm anti-Spire because they sued me years ago, but that's a whole nother story. But
I'm sure. Were they still Laclede Gas back then, Brad?
Yes, they were.
Yeah, I bet they were.
They were. And matter of fact, their attorney in court dropped the F-bomb on me, which to give you an idea of how nice the Laclede Gas people are. So the interesting part of that story is I said to myself, I am never doing business with these people again, and I never have. Matter of fact.
And you know what? You showed them what percentage of, let's say, executives Spire today were around in the 1990s or whenever this imaginary transgression happened.
Well, they're none of them because they're all down, retired in Florida. Matter of fact, they live right next to J.C. Corcoran, and J.C.
Yeah, they should. So it's a good idea to take it out on Spire, a group of people that have nothing to do. By the way, Laclede Gas officially changed its brand to Spire 9 years ago. So when did your alleged F-bomb accident happen, Brad?
Oh, like maybe 20 years ago.
Okay, that's good. So nobody at Spire was probably there back then, but we should take it out on a company that doesn't care or know who you are. We should take it out on them today.
John, can I explain my story?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Do you have gas at your house?
I do.
Okay. If you go outside and look at your meter, there's a pipe that comes out of the ground, and that's where the gas supply comes from, okay? And there's a pipe that comes out of the ground, and that goes into the meter, which is also the regulator, because the pressure is a little bit high coming into the line that comes in ultimately into your home, and that device that's on the side of your house is also the meter, but it's also a regulator, and it steps down the pressure to a very low pressure and keeps it constant, okay? And there is some nuts on there that the fittings. And the fitting that comes from the ground into the gas meter, was secure. But the fitting that went from the gas meter into my house had a leak. And on a couple different occasions, I had the guys come out and service it, and they claimed it was fixed, but yet I could still smell gas. So at the time, this was in the summer, I had an electric water heater. So the only gas I was supposedly using was for the furnace in the winter. But because of the fact it was summer, I wasn't using any gas. At least I didn't think I was using gas.
And then you got your bill, and what did it say, Brad?
I owed like $70 for usage. And I went, how in the world am I getting a bill for $70? I don't have any gas going on. I don't have electric stove. I got electric water. And you were right.
There was a leak out there. So what happened? You took your complaint to them, and what happened, Brad?
I said, I'm not paying it, and they sued me. And I said, well, hold on a minute. Check your service records. We did, and the guy fixed it. And I go, okay, explain to me how I have a bill when it's in the summer. I have an electric water heater. I have electric range. I'm not using the furnace. And the guy said to me, your pilot light is using that much gas. I'm going, my pilot light is using...
No, it's not. Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's
$70 worth of gas? So they were nasty, and they cut off my gas and the whole bit, which is fine because of the fact that I changed my furnace out and put in an electric furnace with an air handler. And then they sued me. And I literally went to court one day, and the attorney for Laclede Gas at the time took me aside and called me an MFer. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, I don't think I'm in court. Called me an MFer, not in front of the judge.
In real life, did he really do that? I mean, like you're like when you tell a story, I understand it's interesting.
John,
but did he really say that to you?
My hand on a stack of Bibles. He called me an MFer. Okay. I mean, an attorney, dude, probably 55 years old, nice suit, nice briefcase. In court, took me off to the side and called me an MFer. And the interesting part of it was, I don't know, maybe this was and to the point where I finally turned this over to my attorney, and she actually did discovery. They actually pulled the phone records of me making the phone calls, and they had all the transcripts. So over a stupid, it turned out to be like 2 months, like $140 gas bill, they probably spent, I don't know how much on the attorney's fees and how much to transcribe the phone calls and stuff like that. And I'm going like, okay, guys, once again, beat this thing into the ground. And I think the problem on that is most people, when the attorney, you get a nasty gram in the mail going, if you don't pay this bill, we're going to take you to court. And I'm going, tell me when and where. Most people don't do that.
Not Brad.
Not me.
Hildebrand. He'll represent himself in court by himself.
See you in court.
He'll take the loss himself.
and once again, I stood up for what I thought was right. But you laugh at me, John. But you know what? The interesting thing about this is that if more people that got abused by the utilities and things like that, or abused by any kind of company that's like a big monsters company that's just like, well, too bad, tough luck. If more people stood up, I think these big monster companies would say, you know what, we got a problem. We got a groundswell problem here. And perfect example.
Yeah, I know. It'll never happen.
It'll never happen because
large companies have a ton of attorneys with nothing to do all day long. They're overstaffed in the legal department. And they're happy to give a junior attorney who could do a Brad Hildebrand case in their sleep the first year out of law school. They're happy to give them something to do. Like, go give some old guy who's quibbling about $70, go give him a hard time.
John, it's the principle of the thing. You know what I'm saying? I
know. I'm not disagreeing with you, Brad. I'm giving you, from a corporate perspective, why it makes sense.
But
if you got an attorney that's not doing anything, and you know what? Maybe somebody will be like, wow, Brad tried to fight this and he had to go to court and the guy called him an MFer. Maybe I should just, spend an hour actually selling radio ads today and not quibbling over $70. Maybe that would be a better use of my time. I'm not talking about you, Brad. I'm talking about a hypothetical radio station owner who has a fit over $70 when they could have spent that in an hour selling radio ads.
But what's interesting? Where that attorney, attorney retired, and you know what he does now?
Yeah, he's on a yacht in Florida, and he does yacht rock with J.C. Corcoran.
No, he does a show on KBDZ, I think, is what he's doing.
Nice. He should. And then he's also schizophrenic, so he sends you text messages that say he's got a problem with you. Then he talks on the phone and he loves you, and then he sends a Facebook direct message where he's mad at you.
But it's not the same guy. The guy that sent me the Facebook message lives in Sydney, Australia. It's right on his way. John, I'll screenshot the.
You got to believe everything you see online. Remember when you believed that Keanu Reeves started following us on Twitter?
He did. Hey, now hold it, man. I just got a like from Mr. Wonderful last week because I said he would make a great president, number 51 of the United States. But the problem with that is he's a Canadian citizen, so he can't be a president.
Oh, I know.
But to see, the thing about that is he could be the president because when we annex Canada, he would essentially be a native-born citizen.
Yeah,
right?
I like that.
Okay, say goodbye, John. John,
I'll see you tomorrow, Brad.
John, when you get off this show, do you roll your eyes and go, that Brad is the stupidest guy. Why do I do this show with him?
No, I just bang my head and say, how does he still have Skype and I don't?